There it goes. All right. That is happening. There we go. Let's fade to black. And we're going live in 5, 4, 3.
Yummy like a gummy bear.
It's the internet. You're busy. Let's do this for December 20th, 2024. For the next hour or so, let me help you sort through the world of gaming on Game Mess Mornings Live with me, Jeff Grubb. Today, everyone is off for the year, so welcome to the last Dregs Day of 2024. But first, please join me in welcoming today's co-host, the Game Mess Mornings. It's Eric Van Allen. Eric, how are you doing?
I love to come in and just clean up, at the end of the year, we whatever's left.
We needed somebody to come in and help us out here. Yeah, not much happened. I ended up finding some news stories. We'll have plenty to talk about, but we'll wrap up the year here. This is the last Game Mess Mornings of 2024. We'll be off for the next 2 weeks. We'll probably be back on everyone's favorite holiday, January 6th. So, yeah, that's I believe that'll be the first day back. We'll see. So, yeah, GMM garbage time. Welcome to it. It's going to be a good one. But yeah, Eric, how are you doing?
I'm doing all right. It's the holidays. It's the end of the year. Just kind of getting through it and doing whatever little work I can here and there. But because it's, the weird way the games are nowadays, there's not really a stoppage to work at all. It's just all going all the time. So,
yep, it's kind of relentless in a lot of ways. That's it's a good thing. But yeah, I'm looking forward to this little break here and then getting things going in 2025. But yeah, and you Axe the Blood God, you guys are kind of amping that up. I mean, that God, you guys have been doing that for a while now. I know you've been a full member of Axe the Blood God for years now, right?
Yeah, I want to say I joined around 2021 or 2 maybe. Obviously a podcast that has a long legacy going back through Active Time Babble and stuff like that. But primarily started by Kat Bailey and Nadia Oxford. 3 of us are now adrift in the sea of the games industry, unmoored as we are. So yeah, we're really looking to bump the thing up in the new year, and also like promo it, because I think a lot of RPG sickos know who we are, but there's always room for more folks to know who we are. So we're doing a lot more streams in the new year. We're doing more content, more varied content in the new year as well. We have some crazy, wild plans and ambitions for what this thing can be now that all of us don't have to treat it as like a part-time job, but it can be a little bit more of our centered job. So yeah, looking forward to it.
Excellent. And I mean, in these days, God, everything's an RPG. Do you guys find ways to kind of talk about more than ever, or are you happy to stay focused on what people traditionally consider to be an RPG?
I mean, literally in our Discord, we have a running gag about resetting the clock every time someone asks what an RPG is, because everything is kind of an RPG nowadays.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, Assassin's Creed, I feel like, was one of the big ones that suddenly this game that used to be kind of an action stealth, third person type game now suddenly has numbers and equipment and things you do, and you can add fire elemental attacks to your sick assassins weapons and things like that. God of War did that. Like, everything is an RPG in some ways. You could make an argument that The Last of Us is an RPG if you wanted to. Like, modding your gun, is that not just buffing your party?
Yeah.
So now, of course, that will drive some people up the wall, but it's fun to experiment with, and it gives us some room to talk about some wider stuff. We just did we have a Pantheon of the Blood God, which is a kind of a game club we do, where we play through a game as a community and then vote on whether it belongs in the Pantheon of all-time great RPGs. And we just got done doing Drakengard, which, let me tell you, that is a contentious game on whether or not it is a good video game, but it's definitely a Muso Panzer Dragoon type game that has RPG stuff in there somewhere. It's floating around in the mix.
Is Drakengard the one that like turns into Nier in some ways?
Yeah. So it was essentially Yoko Taro and crew at Kavia made Drakengard 1. Yoko Taro took the bench for 2 because of how frustrating it was to make 1. And then Drakengard 3 happens, and then I forget the actual story of how Nier comes about, but Nier is a spin-off of the joke ending. It's like if someone took the dog ending from Silent Hill 2 and was like, let's make a sequel based on this.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. So it kind of rules in that way. And it's kind of fascinating, but it is a really difficult game to go back to in the year 2024, let me tell you.
I can imagine for sure. All right, so X the Blood God going strong will be even stronger in 2025. I'm excited for you guys to be able to focus on it even more. It's already a very good show, so looking forward to that. All right, let's explain what we do here. Most weekdays, I, Jeff Grubb, will help piece your gaming life back together. That includes breaking news and maybe even some of our own original reporting. For all these topics, I'll get the input of a bona fide expert who will make me look smart. If you are watching live on Twitch, welcome. You can always listen to the show later on podcast feeds by searching for Game Mess Mornings or find the RSS on giantbomb.com. You can also catch the show later with chapters and timestamps on YouTube. Hello, YouTube. All right, we have a lot to get into, so let's start the morning mess with Xbox is reportedly developing a cross-platform user interface. This is from Tom Ivan at VGC. Let's read the story here. Microsoft is reportedly working on a new cross-platform user interface. That's according to a Windows Central report, which also claims that exclusive Xbox console games will be the exception rather than the rule going forward. Sources tell us that Microsoft is also working on a set of in-game APIs and user interface features called Project Rainway, which is some form of cross-platform Xbox guide menu, the report claims. Microsoft has been inspired by the in-game Battle.net social features seen in Hearthstone, Diablo 4, and World of Warcraft, which lets you share and communicate cross-platform. This means that for games running on other platforms from Xbox, they will still have an Xbox flavor and an in-game Xbox system, maybe even cloud saves. Last week, Microsoft CEO Satya Nadella reiterated that the company's gaming strategy going forward is centered on allowing players to enjoy Xbox on all devices. Of course, we've seen that everything's an Xbox campaign. So this makes sense to a certain degree, right, Eric? Where it's like they want to say everything's an Xbox, but you sort of lose the platform flavor if you are just a game on a shelf that runs on anything. And so if they're trying to make you still feel like you are inside of a contiguous ecosystem, they probably do need something like this. And at the same time, this can probably help something like when these games are running on a handheld PC, where the interface on there is pretty bad, so you want to stay out of Windows as much as possible. You could just use this Xbox interface, so it could have plenty of positive ramifications for what they're trying to do, right?
Yeah, there are two wolves inside Xbox. The desire to want to like have these big exclusives and have a giant umbrella under which there are so many studios pumping out all these games. Then also like the Xbox is everywhere. The Xbox is part of all. The Xbox as Windows drive that I think has kind of been tugging at the heart of Xbox for a while now. And to some extent, I was talking to somebody about this recently. I haven't bought an Xbox yet this generation, even as somebody who like played a lot on the Xbox, especially the 360, because I just have a PC. Like it's essentially the same thing at this point. Yeah. This is an Xbox.
Yeah.
But it's kind of interesting to see this push and pull, especially how it gets inspired by some of their acquisitions, like Battle.net. Seeing the ghost of Battle.net, which I guess is still kind of around, but I remember the fond days of people getting mad about launchers and things like that, and Battle.net is still one of those lingering ghosts there. But social features is definitely a strange thing that I feel weird about this all being tied in. I use the Xbox app on PC, but I mostly use it out of ease because it's easier to get to my Game Pass stuff if I go through that than if I try to go through other routes. But all of this is just continuing to be like, they want Xbox everywhere. They want Xbox on everything you can do. Xbox is not necessarily a platform anymore. Xbox is a like virtual platform. Xbox is the environment and the ecosystem, and this seems to just be pushing further into that.
Yeah, and it's I could we see why they're doing this. The selling Xbox hardware is becoming more difficult for a variety of reasons. One, they, like you mentioned, they sort of minimize the urgency to get new hardware because you do feel like you could just play this if you're on PC. So there's a lot of players who, I think, definitely during Xbox One and PS4 adopted PC because there was a lot more exciting things happening with the hardware during that generation. And so they just naturally, I mean, I'm definitely one of them. I think you are too, from the sounds of it. Just continue doing that with Xbox games going forward. So yeah, obviously that's happening. But also, I just think in general, there is a new crop of gamers coming up, a larger crop that is accustomed to just getting games on the hardware they already have. And so spending hundreds of dollars on bespoke hardware to play video games is a tough sell. And when they do sort of get over that hump, it is with the Switch and to a slightly lesser extent the PlayStation, and not that much of a lesser extent. And then by the time people are considering an Xbox, they're looking at all this other hardware they've already bought, and they're like, well, why would I spend that money when I could just, use that money to buy more games for the system I already own? So it's like they need to do something different. We get that. And the problem is, it's like, all right, so you want to clearly still feel like a platform, but what does that look like in the future? And I think they don't really know. Obviously, no one else really knows. And so they're trying to sort of pave their own way. And I think at the end of the day, we're probably going to look back in a few years and be like, remember when they tried that? And now Microsoft is just the biggest third-party publisher. And of course they are. And that's how we're going to think of them. Do you think they're going to be able to bridge this and actually make something that feels new, and like when you turn on your TV, you're like, well, I'm going to play my Xbox, and that's just my TV? Do you think they get there?
That is like the ultimate question, is like, how do games get to that point? Because that is I feel like the pathway has been laid out with streaming for things like TV series, movies, and stuff like that. We've seen everything go digital, everything go streaming, everything go, you don't have to like even really necessarily buy a set-top box anymore. A lot of TVs come with built-in capability if you're a Roku or an Amazon or something like that. And do games ever get to that point where like the Windows Store, the Xbox Store is just an app that everybody has on their television, on their Roku, on their Amazon Fire Stick? Like, that is maybe the end goal and where Microsoft starts to see the fruits of its labor. But I think there are a lot of questions there because of the bandwidth costs that would, incur, that you would have to like streaming a game is not the same as streaming a show or streaming, music or something like that. I think there are a lot of like hardware and infrastructure problems in the way between here and there. But I do think if it pushes forward, especially if this is where gaming continues to go, Microsoft is well situated. It's just the question of like, so I have a physical prop with me in that my Steam Deck just sits in front of me on the desk, but like having access to those games on here is kind of the end goal, right? Of having Xbox just loaded on my Steam Deck. And when I load up my Steam Deck, I'm not just booting up my Steam library, I'm accessing Xbox, I'm accessing their ecosystem as well. And I do think they're succeeding a little bit in that right now. I still have Game Pass because it's just useful. It's just good to have. The other day I was like, ooh, Nine Souls, I've been wanting to play that. That's on Game Pass. Yeah, cool. And I don't think about the fact that I've been paying that sub for a bunch of months in which I didn't use it. But now I'm excited because I can play Indiana Jones and Nine Souls. So maybe this does work, but I think right now they are just building a lot of goodwill and install base and saying like, when this does kick off, when the digital arms race finally begins, then they're going to be pretty well situated for it.
Yeah, I do wonder how ubiquitous an Xbox overlay becomes built into games. Do they put this into Call of Duty? Do they put it into Minecraft? That stuff I could see them maybe. I mean, you got to sign into Xbox Live on Minecraft already, I think. I haven't done that in a while, but I vaguely remember doing something like that. So them including an updated UI that just enables you to communicate across the Xbox games makes some sense. I just I don't know how frequently people are going to use it if it's not the default, and there are going to be plenty of games that people play that just will not be a part of this in the way that, like, well, if you're on Xbox and that, the system level UI, all the games are a part of that. So Can this work? I don't know about the overlay. I'm sure maybe it'll do some cool functions, but overall, it's like that's probably going to be something that people see and not think much about. As far as like being able to bridge this gap, make it work, and become this virtual platform, as you said, it's possible, but it seems like it's a long way away, especially since really what they need is the Xbox store that they keep hinting at on a Switch and on a PlayStation. And until they really get that, it's like it's going to be what it's been so far, which is you can get these games on PC. And when you do that, you're probably going to use Steam anyhow, which they've come to accept. So, and they've accepted it on PC where they have Windows. And it's like, well, if they're not fighting it there, how hard are they going to really fight to get these stores onto PlayStation and Switch when they could just put the games out on those platforms, on those stores, pay the 30% fee, and call it a day? That's money, and they're paying a lot of money to have these developers that can sell a lot of games. They're probably just going to take the path of least resistance, and that's where we're going to end up with them being a third-party platform or a third-party publisher in a few years. Mm-hmm. I mean, this is also a follow-up to that story from DFC Intelligence, the consultant firm that's like, hey, next generation, it will be a Nintendo's device and one of the other consoles, either from Sony and Microsoft. And it's like, gee, I wonder which one that's going to be. All right, let's move along here. Ubisoft's new game has Rayman and Blood Dragon and NFTs. This is from John Walker at Kotaku. Remember NFTs? They were this hilariously stupid and obvious scam from 2021 where people, and you'll laugh, sold the rights to JPEGs. Yeah, I know those things you can right-click and make an infinite number of. So silly. Anyway, 3 years later, 3 years after all that collapsed, Ubisoft has launched a game featuring the NFT grift. It's called Captain Laserhawk The Game, and that's GAME as an initialism, or I guess as an acronym, is an attempt to revive the once popular Far Cry 3 spin-off Blood Dragon and the spin-off Netflix cartoon Captain Laserhawk. Now as a top-down shooter with commentary from Rayman and perks related to Assassin's Creed, which on its face sounds like someone fell over in the Ubisoft supply closet. It really does sound like someone was like carrying all these things in a neat order and then like fell down an escalator and all the things got mixed together and they're like, well, is this the game? But it doesn't end there because if you want to play, you have to have an NFT. These take the form of Ninja Warrior cards, which can be bought via the game's website where, like in all normal games, you'll have to sign into your wallet. This is where your pretend money and pictures are kept, and in this case, it wants you to use something called Eden Online, Ubisoft's own in-universe creation. You can also sign into Coinbase or Wallet Connect if you have one of those, but who does? So because I'm actually an incredible games journalist, I let the thing hook into my personal Gmail account. This apparently generated a wallet I could associate with the account, meaning I was able to enter the photo booth. Anyway, this story goes on to describe like trying to get one of these NFT cards, these Ninja Warrior cards, so he could actually play the game. And they've all been minted already and sold. So you can only get them from a secondary market now. You have to buy one from someone who owns one. The cheapest one being $12. The most expensive one is 50 Ethereum coins, which is $162,000. $163,000 to be fair. Now, Eric, I see the look on your face. You're like, well, that much money. What is this game? Well, Ubisoft's not telling. They are not showing anything from this piece of shit. This is incredible stuff here.
If you have the money to play this game, let me tell you about the best independent RPG podcast on the internet. It's called Axe the Blood God, patreon.com/bloodgodpod. Yeah. What? So...
Why even release this? Okay, just to like really emphasize it. Ubisoft, I don't think, has mentioned Captain Laserhawk, the GAME, on its official social media account. It's just on the Captain Laserhawk account. They're kind of keeping it contained over there. They're embarrassed by it, and yet they still put it out.
It's amazing because on multiple levels. So number one, that Ubisoft is still trying to do the NFT thing. Like they're just kind of scraping the barrel. They're like, well, we spent all that money. We better try and get more people's money with it. I mean, I guess I can respect that much, that they're really like, well, we got to keep trying and see if we can get the few people who still believe in this. But but it's like a top-down shooter, which is
like a
the
top-down.
strangest
Yeah.
version. Usually, like I am not immune to propaganda. By that I mean I play Pokemon TCG Pocket and I absolutely crack those packs every day. But like that is the sort of thing I would expect from this, or you know, something that adds to like a collectability factor, an idea that you're like building something that's exciting to play and unlock. Like Pokemon TCG Pocket gets that feeling so right when you like
Yes.
swipe that pack and you can like peek at the sides of the cards to
Very
see if you got a little
satisfying,
foil or
yes.
whatever. Whereas like the NFT thing is like you get the world's worst JPEG and then you put it in what sounds like a top-down shooter, which is probably not very good. I'm just gonna like just assume that right out the gate. It's probably no like Ikaruga.
Probably
And
not. No.
I who's doing this? Who's got this time and this cash on their hands in the year 2024? Honestly, I would love to know who is actually buying into this.
I mean, my assumption a lot of times is it is dudes making bots to go play these games, hoping one of them pops off so they could sell these NFTs for a 50% markup. And if you do that at scale, it's probably worth the time. Because like really how complicated can the game be? And if you just send some dumb bots in there to poke around for a little bit, maybe they can accomplish something and that gets you a reward in the game. I mean, frankly, I don't really understand what am I going to get out of this by putting a cryptocurrency into this thing so I can buy an NFT, which you have to do, by the way, to get this NFT in the first place, because it's on the secondhand market. You're going to have to go get a cryptocurrency wallet, buy some Ethereum. The minimum amount you could put in there is $21. So even though it's $12 for the lowest cost Ninja Warrior card, you're going to have to put $21 into your cryptocurrency wallet. And then, okay, to what end? I don't fully understand that. Maybe that's explained somewhere. I don't like. He couldn't even get the game working. John Walker over at Kotaku, so he doesn't know. But yeah, I mean, I get that some people find it appealing and say we can make money from playing video games. Isn't that the dream? And it's just like, actually, no, that is a nightmare. It is a complete nightmare. We don't have to relitigate this. Everyone knows this about NFTs, but it's a nightmare to like turn that into a business where every decision about making the game has this profit incentive behind it. We already have that in a lot of microtransactions. We don't need to have that on steroids. But Ubisoft, three years after this stuff fell apart, trying to make this happen still, and not even really trying to make it happen, just sort of farting it out, is so weird, so bizarre that I don't know how this company is still operating in this way.
It's bonkers, and to encourage the people at home as a now freelancer, you don't have to turn everything you do into a money-making endeavor. Like you just really don't. And I can't imagine anyone logging on to a video game and being like, well, time to earn my paycheck. And I do think it's baffling. There are definitely people who are like, this is my get rich quick scheme. This is my if I just earn enough, I will make my money and I will cash out and I will become rich off of the Ethereum and the Bitcoin and the NFTs. But like, number one, I think that pool is increasingly small because at this point, like, this technology has been dunked on so heavily that it's been largely like there's not enough gullible people left to like, you know, sweep the rug out from under on. And also like there's just other ways to do all of this. And at the end of the day, you make a game that's not even from what we have seen in like the few clips that appear in this trailer or whatever, and also going on my own assumptions, which I feel pretty solid in making. Like you can play better games. You can play other stuff. Yep. You know, there's a lot of video games out there right now. Marvel Rivals is a good time. You can just go play Jeff the Shark and spit your friends off cliffs instead of playing whatever this is.
And it's free as well, right? So it's like, yeah, go hop in there. Although this is supposed to be free, and of course it's actually not. You have to spend money just to get in there. Yeah, I God, I hope Ubisoft finds Jesus. I don't know, man. They seem lost and will never come back into the fold. But I guess as long as that family's in charge, as long as the Guillermo family is doing their thing and is scraping clawing at the walls to stay in control, as they continue to do, even as they're asking Tencent to sort of buy most of the company, but let us stay in charge. I don't have much hope that this company's going to be acting any different in the years to come. They just kind of keep doing the same thing, but bigger and dumber each time. And this is an example of that. All right, let's move on here to Unicorn Overlord, which won't be getting any DLC or a sequel. At least a sequel isn't planned. This is from My Nintendo News. Or is it from Eric Van Allen? Eric, where'd this come from?
I feel like a while ago, and again, I'd have to go back to my old site of employment and double check this, but I'm pretty sure I did an interview with the Unicorn Overlord devs in which they said like, hey, we're not really working on a PC port, and that was part of this news that was going around.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had a moment where I saw that headline going around. I was like, I thought I already confirmed that a while ago.
Mm-hmm.
But this is maybe just them continuing to say like, we're still not working on one, and yeah, that they're not planning anything additional. I mean, this is Vanillaware. When has Vanillaware, like, they'll maybe remake this game in like 10 years, but I doubt that they're going to
PS4 again or something.
Yeah, we'll get Unicorn Overlord Left Horizon, and that'll be this version of that. If you can't tell, I love Unicorn Overlord. This is absolutely on my GOTY list, and pretty high up there too. This game owns, it rips, it's very good.
Yeah, you're right, though. This is Vanillaware. They don't put out PC ports. They honestly don't have many sequels. There's maybe a handful that are like spiritual successors that they've done. And I mean, not even a lot of DLC. Like you said, yeah, they'll remaster it / remake it, release it years later. Yeah. They'll do something like that. But yeah, I guess this isn't too surprising, other than the fact that every other company has sort of softened their positions, like, that are similar to this. A lot of Japanese publishers that used to just not think about PC gaming at all. Now it's unthinkable for them to not release it on Steam. And like even Capcom, where it's like, well, we'll get the Monster Hunter 8 months later. We'll get the PC. Don't worry. Now they're like, no, day and date. It's happening. We think this is an important slice of the market, and we're not going to ignore it. But Vanillaware is still Vanillaware, not changing at all, and it's only surprising just because everyone else would change. Dragon's Crown still isn't on Switch, and Dragon's Crown isn't on PC, right? Like, it's
a lot of Vanillaware's games are not on PC. In fact, I'm struggling to think of one that is.
I'm like, I can't.
I'm like couching my words because I'm betting there's like one that might be, but okay, yeah, chat is confirming me that none of them are.
Yep.
Which is kind of weird because there's been a big push, especially amongst developers of Japanese RPGs, to like embrace the PC as a platform, especially as a launch platform. I feel like Square has been gradually going this way. A lot of Atlas games have been heading that way as well. Sega games, obviously, through Like a Dragon and things like that. And you had companies like Falcom that were already embracing the PC a long time ago. So like, I've been enjoying that, but it's weird that Vanillaware has not done it, except that maybe like Vanillaware is still a small company. At the end of the day, it's a small outfit compared to larger corporations. And it seems like every time a new Vanillaware game comes around, there's definitely an air of like, we're really swinging on this one. We're putting a lot behind it. We really got to make this work. And I love that. I love that about this company. They put out some incredibly vibrant, interesting, fascinating games. 13 Sentinels, Odin Sphere, an extremely underrated game that I wish was available on the Switch right now. But it does mean that you kind of have to own the right platforms to play their entire collection.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, which, in some ways is the PC, if you're willing to get on there and get some emulators going. I really want to play Dragon's Crown again. It's been a minute.
Yeah.
That's one where it's like, I would love to get a crew together and play through that.
Yes.
In fact, I'm in the mood for like beat 'em ups right now. One of my kids was just hopped on the Simpsons machine here, the arcade one up last night, and was going to town and just playing through it by herself while I was busy getting some presents wrapped and things like that. And I'm like, man, she's like old enough now that maybe we could like find a good beat 'em up to play through together. And I'm trying, like, what do you think? Like, do you have one, like a go-to one that you think would be good for like a family of people that are of different gaming skills?
For a family of people, a family content beat 'em up. Usually, so I have my Ambernick here that I picked up. See, I have so many props on my desk today.
Yeah, you do. There we go.
But usually when I boot up some sort of new emulator or something that can play it, Streets of Rage 2 is usually what I go to.
Yeah, that is a family favorite. Actually, that's my wife and my sister-in-law played that a ton as a kid, and of course I did as well. So every time they're here, we play that. And these days, it's been Streets of Rage 4 as well.
Oh yeah, I would say for an outside shot one, there was I think it was the Capcom made Dungeons and Dragons, like Chronicles of Mystara.
Yeah,
that is an underrated beat 'em up that's pretty solid. That or like Castle Crashers is always a good pick.
Yeah, I think Castle Crashers might be the one that I go with because I think the kids would think it's funny with like the the farting goats or whatever it is and stuff like that. And
Scott Pilgrim, Scott Pilgrim just got that like remaster or whatever. That's a good one.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm
City Girls. Yeah,
I'll throw a menu out there and we'll see what everyone jumps toward. It'll probably be Streets of Rage 4 again, honestly, but I'm fine with that.
Streets of Rage 4 is so good.
It rules.
It's so good.
The roguelite mode that they put in there. So a lot of these indie games get those modes where it's like, okay, here's the endless mode. Go as far as you can and get different powers and get them mixed up in different ways. Very good in Streets of Rage 4. That's an excellent way to play that game. All right. We'll come back right after a quick break. We got to talk about the future of Elder Scrolls Online and that Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite and Beyond fan mod. We'll get to all of that right after this. All right, we are back. Thank you for sticking with us. And as promised, let's get right back into the headlines with the Elder Scrolls Online to no longer get major annual expansions. This is from Magnus Goth Anderson at Game Reactor. For many years, the Elder Scrolls Online has, like World of Warcraft, had major expansions such as Greymoor and Morrowind, but it seems that this will not be the case going forward. Despite being quite successful with the game's current content model, the team behind it is now changing direction. ZeniMax Online Studios boss Matt Furore has written an open letter where he confirms that the game is officially moving away from major chapters, as he calls them, to a seasonal model. We have been incredibly successful with our strong annual chapter releases, starting with Morrowind in 2017. Jeez, it's been that long since that Morrowind expansion. Up through Gold Road just 6 months ago. Zone design and quest content is at the core of every Elder Scrolls game, as our annual chapter release model highlighted. We will still do lots of story content, but now looking into 2025, we need to concentrate on different types of content to support all types of ESO players. So we are putting chapters aside and we'll be focusing on new types of content and a new release philosophy. More on that below. Basically, new content will be added to Elder Scrolls Online, but these seasons, which will introduce content more frequently, don't seem nearly as ambitious as the larger chapters. Got to say, this sounds like what's going on with Destiny 2, right? Where it's like, we want to keep this thing going. We want to keep making money from it. Ideally, we want to keep making about the same amount of money from it, but we want to put less work into the stuff we're putting out to make that amount of money. And I mean, at a certain point, I get that, especially for such a long ongoing game. But like Destiny 2, I imagine the player base that's been very happy with the way these things have gone. Elder Scrolls Online has a very fanatical fan base. I imagine that they're going to not love hearing this, but I'm just guessing. I'm not one of those players. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm not one of those players either. I'm a pretty hard person to draw into an MMO if your name isn't Final Fantasy 14. But this has always been a fascinating one to me because it kind of lingers on the periphery for me. But there are a lot of people who get really into this game, and I find it fascinating to see how these live service games kind of ramp up and then scale down because it always happens. And like maybe there is a revival or a resurgence that happens somewhere down the line, but usually that's pretty fan driven. That's pretty like community driven. Games that get those fan supported servers or like individual groups that still love to play them are kind of the surprise and not something you can plan for, and certainly not something you're building content for as a company most of the time. And so I'm not surprised this is the lifespan of any online video game, is that eventually like players are going to start to move on to something else. Players are going to want something new, and either the MMO finds a way to provide that itself, or more often than not, like players do just go somewhere else, try something new, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. But it is kind of a bummer for people who maybe still want more out of Elder Scrolls Online, because maybe they think there is more to continue to get out of this experience. So yeah, I don't know. It's the tricky part of this. I can't imagine how I would feel if FF14 was like, "Hey, guess what? No more expansions." I'd be distraught. I'd be
Right.
running into the streets, tearing my clothes, howling at the moon, that sort of thing. So,
Does Final Fantasy 11 still get expansions?
it doesn't get expansions, but it's still got players.
Oh,
It's
no,
still got
definitely still has players. Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's still got shooters, as they say, but
Yeah.
like it's I podcast with one of them, Victor Hunter, notorious Final Fantasy 11 fan. But yeah, I think it's pretty much there's some thoughts that maybe there might be some 11 stuff coming down the pipe, because right now the current raid series in Final Fantasy 14 is centered on Final Fantasy 11. It's like a crossover that brings in a lot of those characters and even mechanics and stuff like that in really interesting ways. But yeah, it's still kind of just out there. It just exists. I'm surprised your sub for 14 doesn't get you into 11 as well. I really think it should.
Point, yeah, why not? I think the only reason this is a little bit surprising is, and this will pop in my head when I first saw this, as Marino in chat points out, EverQuest is just got its 31st expansion. There's for some reason, some MMOs, like anything like sort of above the EverQuest level in my mind was like, no, those are just going on forever, and not just going on, not just existing in maintenance mode, actively getting new support. And then, when I really look at it, there's a lot of MMOs that probably were EverQuest size or bigger that definitely have not just gone into maintenance mode, but have completely shut down. So it's not like across the board. But it's like, in my mind, it's like, no, a successful MMO does just exist there forever over in the corner doing its own thing. And I think that they probably just have different ideas about what they need to do for the future of Elder Scrolls and online games involving these properties from Bethesda. And so they're probably trying to like slowly shift into that over a matter of years. And this is just the beginning of that. But yeah, I thought Elder Scrolls Online was like extraordinarily popular for like how old it is. It seemed like it had like I said, that fanatical fan base, but I thought it was pretty sizable, especially after getting put into Game Pass in some ways. But who knows if that, like, what that really looks like and what the business model looks like. I bet it is a line that trends down over time, and they're probably just seeing like, okay, if we keep doing this, the line could go from the black into the red. And so let's just cut it off now, change things up, and try to make more from less. And again, like, can you blame them after 10 years? I think, hey, getting 10 years out of an online video game seems like a fair deal to me.
I think the interesting comparison point here is that there's also Fallout 76, and this kind of like a parallel idea of a game is, here's our kind of MMOE take on our single player RPGs. But Fallout 76 is going to continue to get an influx of new players because the Fallout TV show is doing well.
That's a good
We don't
point.
have like an Elder Scrolls like transmedia empire yet, right? Like
We're
Elder
years away
Scrolls is
from
kind
Elder
of
Scrolls 6, which while that will increase the popularity of the brand, is going to take a lot of oxygen out of the room for something like ESO to thrive in that moment.
So why I maybe the thinking is like, why expend a lot now? Why not just, like you said, wait until we get further down the line? We can do a more concentrated push around when Elder Scrolls is probably going to pick up more in notoriety. And for right now, like, if Elder Scrolls 6 isn't coming out anytime soon, then why go overboard on it? Why try to force a thing? Instead, kind of put it into a little bit of a like REM sleep mode and then bring it back up.
Yeah, Sambo Nice in chat points out that right now, Elder Scrolls Online has 12,000 concurrent players on Steam. That's really solid. I mean, you can build a business around 10,000 concurrent players pretty easily, especially if they're going to be paying customers for expansions. But they've done that, and they're probably just like, hey, we can make a bigger swing and maybe get back up to 100,000 concurrent players for a couple of years if we do something new. And to do that, we need to begin moving on. Like Bethesda and ZeniMax underneath Microsoft, they're not going to start up another ZeniMax Online to do another MMO. They're going to take this team and have them do something else, and that seems to be what's going to start here. All right, Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite and Beyond fan mod launches tomorrow and brings art style overhaul and more. This is from Alex Coe at DualShockers. When Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite was released in 2017, it failed to live up to its predecessors and was a huge disappointment to fighting game fans worldwide. While Capcom has since given up on the game, the fighting game community hasn't. And we're about to see the fruits of their labor with Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite and Beyond, which releases on December 20th. Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite and Beyond is a fan mod that improves the original game in every way. There's a launch trailer if you want to see what they're talking about here. But here's a list of improvements. Overhauled art style for the cast of fighters, added visual effects, new color palettes, alternate costumes, gameplay updates, stage updates, 4-player tag team modes, which is some real cool stuff. I've seen some clips of this of like Maximilian Dude and his friends doing 2v2 fights, tagging one another in. That's obviously 2XKO does that as well, but they're like, hey, it works really well here as well. And then customized voices and sounds and new music tracks. Basically, they made the game they wanted this to be all along, and it looks fantastic. It looks so good. Something like 40 people worked on this project. I'm glad it was able to like sort of get to this point where now it's here, and that means it'll be out there, and you won't be able to put the cap back on, even if Disney or Capcom show up with a cease and desist. You'll be able to find this on torrent sites going forward. So this is a really cool thing. I plan to check it out. How about you?
Oh, absolutely. MVCI was one that I didn't really gel with when it came out at the time, and I'm, something. What's the Willem Dafoe thing? Like, I'm something of a fighting game fan myself.
There it is. Yes.
Yeah. But like, MVCI didn't really click with me as somebody that loved 2 and 3. And Pal in the chat, John Carson, there saying we'll be running sets this weekend. Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
We'll probably be doing that. But like, everything about this is so rad because it really is. For me personally, like number one, fighting games have had such a community push in the last few years, especially amidst the COVID pandemic. There was a big upswing in people wanting to play old games, get on like Fightcade and play like MVC2, play Third Strike, play CVS 2. And I think you're seeing some of the like excitement around that now pick up with, even Capcom's going like, yeah, we should probably take Capcom versus SNK2 out of the vault and sell it again. That makes sense.
Yep.
Like we'd probably make some money off that, and it's been incredible. It's been excellent to see.
Sorry, everybody. Sound was coming through there. I thought it was muted. My bad. I fixed that. Cool. Sorry. Keep going, Eric.
Hot audio.
Hot audio.
Yeah. So CVS 2 and stuff like that getting re-released is already exciting enough, but a lot of the excitement around just building the fan mod, making the game what you want it to be. I grew up, especially in like college era, we loved playing Project M. When we discovered Project M and played that's I know that's the forbidden game and all that, but it was such a jam to play that game and experience like a different version of Smash that was kind of balanced around what the community wanted it to be. And seeing this from MVCI, a game that a lot of people I think had written off. A lot of people had maybe gone like, okay, this is the bad MVC, and to see a team go like, no, like we're gonna tune this, we're gonna mess with it, we're gonna see like what this can be when we tinker with it a little bit, and come out with something this incredible is like really, really exciting. I'm curious to see what kind of scale attachment it gets, because I could see this developing, a community fan base and stuff like that. But as for whether this gets like an Evo spot, whether this even gets like a combo breaker spot or something like that, a little bit more curious. I think like with the rights issues, that's maybe a bit hairy for some of the TOs out there, but I'm just excited to see MVCI getting like a little bit of love, a game that really, really just did not have a strong start out of the gate, but absolutely deserves a second look.
Yeah, and it does feel like the winds are blowing in favor of us getting a new one of these one day. It definitely feels like Disney's down to clown. Capcom is in a position where they could pull this off. Now, is Capcom going to do that before they like maybe turn to some of their own stuff in the meantime? Maybe they do a Darkstalkers first, and I think a lot of people would welcome that instead.
That'd be crazy.
Yes, but it feels like we're there. It feels like they're bringing back Animusha, they're bringing back Okami. Because they're in such a strong position and they have such a strong handle on their technology that they feel comfortable like making these bets more frequently, and that's going to turn back to the fighting game scene that they've had for a long time, where okay, yeah, we've done Street Fighter and that's going very well. Let's just go a little bit deeper. And Marvel's obviously right there, but they did try Infinite not too long ago, so maybe they'd go with Darkstalkers. But I don't think that we are never again going to get a Marvel versus Capcom game. That will happen again one day.
Darkstalkers is crazy to me because initially when I was making jokes about what would Capcom bring back now that like Onimusha is back on the table, I was like, they got to give us Breath of Fire at some point. That has to come back, even just a collection. But Darkstalkers is an even deeper Stranger cut, and that's crazy.
I think that's the kind of Capcom that we have right now is a deeper and weirder, and I'm so excited about it. So, yep. God, this game just looks fantastic now. They really just put a little Borderlands cell shading on there. That's all you need. That fixes most games, turns out. All right, let's keep moving here. Next story, Sonic Movie 4 planned to release in 2027. The third movie only just came out or is about to come out. I think it came out last weekend. But this comes from My Nintendo News. Entertainment website Variety is reporting that Sonic the Hedgehog 4 is going to be planned for release in 2027. This is a very successful film franchise. Sonic 3 is out this past weekend, and it was... matched up against some other ones, or maybe it's coming out this weekend. But I just saw a headline saying they anticipate it's coming out this one. All right,
it's today. I think
it comes out today.
Like today. Yeah.
I saw a headline saying that they anticipated to make more money than anything else this weekend. And there's a lot of other big releases like Mufasa. Yeah, it's up against Mufasa, and that last Lion King live action, whatever the movie is one of the highest grossing films ever. And Mufasa apparently not going to do as well as Sonic the Hedgehog 3. Like that's where we're at right now.
I don't know anything about Sonic. I'm just gonna say that up front. But I have beef with Mufasa. Can I bring up beef with Mufasa?
Yeah.
Real quick?
Okay. Come for Mufasa.
Don't call that, like, why are they calling it live action? It's CGI.
It's all animated. Every single frame is animated.
If they taught a lion to like talk and do all the lines, now I would be interested. Now I'm like seated. I'm in that movie theater for that. But like they're just doing CGI Mufasa like talking like, oh, I'm Mufasa, I'm gonna fall off a cliff in the next movie. Like I don't really, it's not doing anything for me. I'm not there for it. So yeah, until you can teach a lion to talk, and Disney, you've got that money. I've been to Disneyland and Disney World now. I've seen the money you have. I'm not seated in that theater.
Yeah, it just does nothing for me when I looked at the Lion King thing, and then now I guess you know what, I wanted to be more excited about the Mufasa. I'm like, okay, there's a lot of cool people working on this, but then I saw it. I'm like, nope, still feel absolutely nothing. The original animated Lion King though. I love that stuff. I'll just go watch that again. Making my kids watch that.
It's a great time.
That's a classic.
As for Sonic, like I respect all the Sonic sickos in my life. I respect all the people who are very excited for this. My good friend Kenneth Shepard is thrilled for this. Good. I've always loved Sonic from just like, oh, it's 2D Sonic. I played Genesis when I was really little, and I'd watch him run across, and my brother would play Tails, and then it like turned into a series that had lore and characters and a story.
Against
and I was like, no,
odds, Sonic has lore.
Yeah, and I was like, this is Sonic. This is like, oh, Sonic runs to the right and does little speedball things and stuff like that. And I think I just never got on board with the idea of Sonic having the deep lore. It never clicked for me. It's like Mario, suddenly finding out that someone like watches AMVs of like Mario, so it's like Linkin Park, and it's like Luigi being like, oh, this actually sounds really good.
You're describing something that sounds awesome. Luigi pulls off his shirt and he's like just jacked. And
it's Linkin like Park in the end, but it's Luigi like in the mansion, like sucking up all the ghosts.
That's art. That's what that is. Yeah, I mean, I just can't help but think about Sonic and then think about how they were bullied into making billions of dollars now. Every time that comes up, like Mike always makes that point, Mike Minotti, and I'm like, yeah, you're right. They very easily could have missed out on this, and because we all yelled at them, they have now one of the most successful film franchises that is a going concern at the moment. It is quite baffling. So good for them. Yes, the franchise really has teeth now. Well done, Jason Finelli. All right, couple last stories here. NFL team owner reportedly used Madden to make a decision. This is from Zach Swisen at Kotaku. A report claims that New York Jets owner Woody Johnson used EA's Madden video game series to inform his decision-making regarding real players. The Athletic reported that Johnson vetoed a trade deal for wide receiver Jerry Jeudy due to his low rating in Madden. Jeudy was later picked up by the Cleveland Browns and has had a great season. He's had a really good season. He's a very good football player. This rules that is a level of dysfunction at the ownership level that only can happen at the Jets.
I was going to say it would be the Jets that do this.
Of course,
and
the Jets.
To be clear, so they're in the football, like soccer side of the world, like there are absolutely scouts and stuff that use Football Manager as like a tool, as like part of the stuff they look into. Like that stuff is actually pretty robust.
Yeah, Football Manager is played by absolute freaks, so that makes some sense.
That's some sicko stuff happening there, but like, using Madden is really funny because I just imagine this person sitting there like losing their Madden game, their ultimate team game, and being like, I'm trading this guy. Like, get out of here.
It sounds pretty close to exactly what happened here. So, man, did he booted up Madden, or did he like Google it? I wonder if he just Googled it and like saw his Madden rating or something that way.
He probably Googled it, but like, when I tell people that this is why I love sports, like I also love the drama and the strategy and the athleticism, but also like sports gives us stories like this.
Right.
That's why it's beautiful. It's like for all the for as much as Moneyball and analytics have come into it, which I do like that stuff. I like that they've turned a lot of sports into math. At its foundation, it's driven by emotions and by people's hubris and rich people's whims. And boy, it's fun to see how stupid they could be sometimes. And then in like the case of my team, the Lions, it's like, wait, the Ford family got their shit. When did that happen? That was never supposed to happen. Oh my God. So it's like this uplifting story. Finally, something going in favor of the Fords. All right. Last story here. The 2024 Indie Game Awards winner went beyond Balatro, but also included Balatro. This is from Matt Patches at Polygon. We'll read through some of these winners here. Game of the year was Balatro. Best debut game was Little Kitty Big City. Accessibility, Another Crab's Treasure. That's got the best accessibility thing of the year. Just add a gun. It's a gun. Yeah.
Just give the crab a gun and let him shoot all these bosses. Visual design, Harold Halibut. I'm glad that game got something. It was never for me, but boy, it looked cool and it got this for visual design, which it earned. Best music, Pacific Drive. Best bite-sized game, Thank Goodness You're Here. Best solo development, Animal Well. I like the categories for the Indie Game Awards. It's like really recognizing the kinds of things that only happen in indie games, like solo development. Innovation, Cryptmaster. That's a favorite of mine. I like Cryptmaster quite a bit. Emotional impact was Neva. Gameplay design, Balatro. Community management, Aggro Crab. Women-led game, Mexico 1921, A Deep Slumber. And then narrative went to 1000 Times Resist. So yeah,
that's a great lineup. I know a bunch of the people that were voting on this, and we're kind of arranging a lot of this stuff. The like indie council that formed all this, and I think it's, if you're somebody who was coming out of, especially like myself, coming out of the Game Awards and being like, wow, they didn't really like do much for indie games. Like Balatro certainly got elevated, and a few other games popped up in their respective indie categories that got like sectioned off to the side. But if you want something where you're going to watch an award show and see a bunch of games that you want to check out that you haven't heard of before, like Mexico 1921 is a great example of a game that I don't think many people have heard of or paid attention to, but is a really incredible, fascinating experience. Like this was a really good award show and a really like solid push from a bunch of folks who just wanted something a little bit different in the space, not necessarily trying to usurp anybody, but like understanding that there just needed to be something different out there to like make space for these indie games.
Just come at it from a slightly different angle to give different games a chance to get some recognition. That's fantastic. John Carson in chat's mentioning that apparently they have the rule is other than Game of the Year, you can't be nominated in more than 2 categories. Nothing was nominated for 2 categories besides Game of the Year. I wonder if that applies to the women-led game, because that would be kind of unfair. Like, oh, you're a women-led game, so you can only be nominated for that. I bet they don't do it that way, actually.
Yeah. I would think there would be some
thinking there.
Some thinking there, absolutely. But yeah, again, these awards were fantastic, and I love this stuff. So shout out to them.
Yep, absolutely. All right, everybody, that does it for the headlines. Let's get over here to the poll from yesterday. Let me get it framed up here for you all. And there we go. Are you going to see Sonic 3 in theaters? Yes or no? 29% say yes. 71% say no. I'm probably not going to see it in theaters unless the kids start asking about it. Mostly because movies like these family movies, they come home very fast. They end up on, Paramount Plus, I think is what this one is going to end up on. It takes like a month and a half. So it's like in a blink, it'll be there. And that's pretty convenient for me, having to take an entire family out to see a movie. I enjoy that. But we'll see. If they ask about it, I like going to the movies. Maybe I'll check it out. How about you, Eric? You going to go see it in the theater?
No, I got in trouble with a friend for saying that I wasn't going to see Sonic or Wicked in theaters. Sonic, I just have no interest. And Wicked is like something that I want to see with people, and I don't want to go see that by myself. I would feel weird seeing that movie by myself. So I don't know what you see by yourself in a theater these days, and maybe like Nosferatu, Bob Dylan.
Nosferatu's a by yourself movie. I see that. Yeah.
It'd be really funny to walk out of Wicked and then just like ski. Like, that was crazy. I didn't know Bob Dylan's life was like that. So you could do that for the bit, maybe.
Yeah, that's fair. I would enjoy that. All right. I got a new poll question. We'll get to that here in a second. Before that, though, Eric Van Allen, why don't you tell people where they can find you on the internet, what you have going on, all that good stuff.
Yeah, you can find me, like we said, Axe of the Blood God, an independent RPG podcast. I co-host with Kat Bailey and Nadia Oxford. We've got big plans for the new year. We love to cover RPGs and also a bunch of other stuff. We've got some side quests, like I think we're doing the top 10 RPG battle themes coming up pretty soon here, but we're probably going to do like a watch of Nausicaa, because Kat Bailey has somehow never seen the movie Nausicaa. Yeah, that's the most Kat Bailey movie I've ever seen.
Yes,
and she was like, I've never seen it. And I'm like, that's crazy to me. So there's that. There's Normandy FM, the other podcast I co-host with Kenneth Shepard, where we play kind of like games in a book club format. Right now we're playing through Nier Automata, which has been a really fun experience. And then I'm also freelancing, so you can find my work primarily on But Why Though, which is an incredible entertainment and gaming publication run by Kate Sanchez and Matt Donahue, which does a lot of great work. I've been doing a lot of writing over there. My mouth-washing review, if you want to read about a really, really good indie game, you can go find that. Or you can head to places like PC Gamer, where I just put up I think it might be the first hands-on of, if you know the game Battle Chef Brigade, that studio has a new game coming out sometime in the future, and I got to do the first hands-on with that, and it was really, really cool. I like that game a lot. Battlesuit Aces looks really, really good, so find all those things where you can find them.
Okay, excellent. That sounds fantastic. All right, new poll question.
And Blue Sky and all that, yeah.
Excellent. What's your most anticipated game of 2025? Monster Hunter Wilds, Elden Ring Night Ring, Ghost of Yotei, Grand Theft Auto 6. I can only put 4 because YouTube changed how many you could put. So those are your options. Of course, there is a comment section if you want to put your actual most anticipated game. Marino points out that community game of the year voting has begun. Go to giantbomb.com. You'll find the link to that there. I would love to get everybody's vote on that. I love the community vote thing. That would be fantastic. Also, beep, 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 beep. I am getting an update here in my notes from the producers. All right, this says, Dan is clogging a toilet right now with tummy issues. Blight Club is coming in the new year. The mac and cheese finally got to him. All right, you heard it here, everybody. We were going to do the first episode of his Blight Club today, but the man has clogged. Triple digits for clogging toilets. He's going to start working on quad digits here pretty soon, I think. So, yeah, sorry, everybody. I was looking forward to it. But you know what this means is that he's just going to be right up against that deadline where if he doesn't start it in our first week back from break, he is going to be in a lot of trouble with Alex Navarro. Yes. Okay. Now a new update here from the producer. God has intervened and stopped him. So maybe God wants him to be punished. Who knows? That doesn't sound right. All right. So, hey, that means if we do something today, it's going to be, we'll come up with something maybe. No promises. Everyone's kind of got senioritis a little bit for 2024. So we'll see if we're able to put something together. I don't know. In the meantime, though, Eric Van Allen, thank you so much for hanging out with me today and talking about video games, man. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on and talking about all my craziness and letting me rant about Mufasa. It's important that the people know. I
love it. Absolutely. It was great to see you out in LA. Glad we were able to make this happen. Glad we were able to make Game Mess Mornings happen all year, everybody. That was a lot of fun. I really like doing this show. Love talking with y'all and kind of, bouncing back and forth between chat. I love having all the guests on to talk about the video game news. It is a very fun show for me. Been doing it for a while now. Still the highlight of my day each time we get to do an episode. So thank you all for making it possible. Giant Bob in 2025, we're going to keep doing our thing. We'll probably have some changes, but just based on what we have to do to make things work. But we're going to still be Giant Bomb. So look out for us in the next year. Can't wait to get back and do another GB at night at SGF and things like that. So yeah, we're still going to be that. We're going to be that team that you've been coming here for. All right. One more time. Thank you, Eric. One more time. Thank you all. You're the best audience in gaming. Thank you for listening and watching. Until next time, have a good one. Take care of yourself and goodbye.